Now, at just 17, our next guest became a best-selling author, with her novels being adapted for TV, film and even the stage.
And now she's back with a brand new book. We'll be talking about it very shortly. But first, good morning, Kathy Lette. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Hi, so great to speak with you. I just love the Irish accent. I've just found out I'm 50% from Tipperary. I did that show, Who Do You Think You Are? So I'm feeling the Celtic love vibe.
Really? 50%? So who was there? What relations were there?
Well, all of them. Australia's very
No, but which
Celtic.
side?
Oh, my dad's side.
Your dad's side, okay.
Kathy's like, I said Tipperary, Alan, give me a break. We've done enough. Kathy, it's so lovely to have you on the show because you were 17 years old when you wrote a book called Puberty Blues that was turned into a film that has been seen by so many people, but also that book that has been read. Tell us about that book and writing it, because I swear you went for it, Kathy.
I did. Well, you know, the boys I grew up with disproves the theory of evolution. They were evolving into apes. And as an example of how sexist they were, they used to get us to cut their names out in paper, sticky tape them on our stomachs, and then sunbake so we get a tan tattoo in the shape of their name. So if ever I get cancer, I'll have a melanoma called Bruce.
Oh, my God.
I'll have to have like a Bruce-ectomy to get rid of it.
You're joking me.
No, and they were also the sort of guys who thought sex drive meant doing it in the car. And I don't know what Irishmen are like. I won't ask you, Muireann, where you lost your virginity, but we were all in the back of the car. And I worked out why, Alan, finally. You know that sign on the rear vision mirror that says, objects in this mirror may appear larger than they are.
I love it.
It all makes sense now.
But, I mean, you knew when you were writing this book that it was going to be a bit risque for your age and everything like that you even said to your mother, will I use a pen name?
I did.
Tell
I said to Mum,
tell us what the name.
I said, Mum, should I use a nom de plume? I'm writing this book, it's a little bit risque and it's set in the panel vans at the beaches. And she was like, and I said, I had a really good name. I was going to call myself Sue Denim. And I remember her patting my shoulder and going, don't worry, darling. I don't think that book's ever going to be published.
Sue Denim.
I love that so much. But Kathy, the way that book resonated. It was made into a TV series just back in 2014. The movie as well. I remember watching that when I was way too young and being caught by my father during a very graphic scene in a van, as you mentioned there. What was that like, speaking for, you know, Lena Dunham talks about being the voice of a generation. That's what you were in Australia. Yeah,
I mean, I was just calling out the sexism, and nobody had really done that at the time because women was nothing more than a life support system to a pair of breasts, you know. And these guys were gorgeous looking, but they kept fit by doing step aerobics off their own egos. You know, for example, and when you were in bed with one of these guys, when he reached his moment of pleasure, he would call out his own name. They were like that. They had love bites on their mirrors. And I just wrote this.
I love that. They'd love bites on their mirrors. Oh, my God.
Just totally resonated with young people. And, you know, Kylie, just to go for gold in the name-dropping Olympics for a second, Kylie Minogue's my good friend. And she said it was... because parents tried to ban the book, but, you know, she was reading it under the bedspread with a torch at night, you know, getting all the juicy details. So it's a raw book. It's like straight Vegemite, no bread and butter, but it's really honest. And I think, and since then, that's all I've tried to do in my books is write down the way women talk when there's no men around, and also write down what women are thinking, but not necessarily saying out loud. So, you know, I try and be completely honest about what life is like for women, from puberty to menopause and beyond. So that's my whole literary raison d'etre.
And you've had such wonderful books over the years. Like I remember reading Mad Cows and all that kind of stuff. But tell us about your brand new book. It's called The Sisterhood Rules.
Yes. Well, as I was saying, in all my books, I always champion women because it's still, you know, 100 years since Emily Pankhurst tied herself to the railings, we still don't have equal pay. But I have to admit there are some women who need to go to the vets to get their claws done. Caroline Levitt, anyone, Pam Bondi. So I wanted to explore what happens when the sisterhood goes sour. So in this book, two sisters haven't spoken for 5 years because one had an affair with the other one's husband. But when their mother goes missing, they're forced to come back together to try and find her. And they think that she's gone to a Dignitas clinic in Switzerland. They get all confused. But when they get there, they go rushing down through the woods looking for their mum. And there's their 69-year-old mother dancing naked round a fire pit with a 39-year-old alpine horn player. Because the other thing I want to say about this book, apart from saying the sisterhood is important, we must all try and, be powerful and solidarity, is that women don't give up sex when they get old. They get old when they give up sex. So the mother's philosophy is never put off till tomorrow. Anybody you could be doing today. So the book is really also saying to women, have a sensational second act, go forth and be fabulous. So it's a positive book that champions women.
But you also say in it that, like, these female friendships are so important that when it does break up, it's nearly as heartbreaking as a breakup of a loved one, like of a husband or a wife or whatever.
Yeah, don't you think, Muireann, you've ever had a friendship that shattered? It's heartbreaking. And women should be each other's human wonder bras, uplifting, supportive, and making each other look bigger and better. And I'm wearing a wonder bra now, and it's so cool because when you take it off, you wonder where the hell your breasts went. So, never wonder where your girlfriends have gone. Let your cups runneth over with love for each other. I think there are some sisterhood rules in the book, like be like a big, those big knickers you buy at a certain age, be like a big pair of those knickers. You've got her ass covered. Encourage her at work to think big. We no longer want men's seat on the bus. We want their seats on the board. And other things like be the wind beneath her bingo wings, be supportive. And the most important rule, and I did check with your producer that I could say this, so I won't get into trouble.
Oh, work away.
Husbands come and go, but girlfriends last forever. So never let a penis come between us. That's the most important rule.
Right, okay, that's a good rule. You're saying that you're living, like you're absolutely full of energy and effervescence, and you're saying that you are living the second act of your life. Is it better than the first act?
Totally. I think for women, life is in 2 acts. The trick is surviving the interval, which is the menopause, which is dreadful. You sweat more than King Charles reading the Epstein files. But on the other side of that, I think it's the best time of a woman's life. There's a lot to look forward to. No period cramps, no pregnancy scares. You've got all that tampon money to spend. And I think you also, sorry, Alan, you are going to be ovulating by the end of this conversation, by the way.
I'm traumatized. No, I'm not at all. Go on, I'm well used to it with this one.
Oh, yeah, sure. Think about your own mothers. Aren't they just the most wonderful crack?
Yeah.
So women come into their own in some way, I think, post 50. And there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of joy. But the sad thing is just at the time when women come into the peak of their productivity, society tries to put you out to career paths. You get handed the kind of the cloak of invisibility. And it's not just me imagining that, Muireann. About a few years ago, MI5 said they wanted to employ middle-aged women as spies because nobody sees us. So, and just look at the sexism that's sewn into our vernacular and our psyche. While I'm dismissed as an old bag, a hag and a crone, a man my age is a silver fox. Alan, you never hear a man written off as mutton dressed as ram. Ever.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, Kathy. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Kathy, yourself, you were talking about going back into the dating pool when you were in your 50s, the husband replacement therapy. And you met your boyfriend, an Irish fella, when he was playing Bach under a tree.
Oh, it's pathetic. Because all my books are kind of sardonic and quippy and a little bit, sarcastic and caustic. And then I have this, what they call in the movies, a cute meet, like a Richard Curtis film. I was jogging through Regent's Park and he was playing Bach in the park under a tree. He's a classical guitarist from Derry. And I just stopped and said, that's the most beautiful rendition of that music I've ever heard. Then he opened his mouth and this beautiful Irish accent came out and I was like, take me, I'm yours. So, my boyfriend's from Derry and he's divine. And he's younger than me. And a younger man, Alan, is the best because they adore you, they don't bore you, and they do all your chores for you.
Kathy, I'm married to a younger man. You're talking to the converted.
Yeah. Does he do your chores? Does he do your chores for you?
He doesn't do my chores for me. But listen, I'm sure there was one person many years ago that you would have loved to say, "Take me, I'm yours." Tell me your story of a very famous actor.
Oh, Lord, this is the most embarrassing thing. You know, people sometimes say to me, is there anything in life you regret doing? There's nothing I regret doing. There's things I regret not doing. And I was working on a show when I was writing sitcom in LA called The Facts of Life. I don't know if you know it in Ireland. It was a massive show in America. And we cast this unknown actor called George Clooney. And he asked me out. And I said no. I can remember exactly what I said. I'm a writer. I don't go out with actors. You put other people's words in your mouth when you never know where they've been. And then years later, I'm now in London. I've married. I've got 2 children. I'm covered in haven't slept for months, you know. And one of my writer friends was visiting me. And do you remember ER?
Yes.
Yeah.
ER's on in the background. I'm going, oh, look at that Dr. Ross. Isn't he gorgeous? I could swim through a pool of my own drool to get to him. And he goes, but that's the guy we cast. That's the guy who asked you out. That's George Clooney. And I was like, I lay in the fetal position and sobbed for about 2 years. You know, what do you do? But the funny thing happened. I must tell you guys that some years later, I was married to a human rights lawyer then. We've broken up now. But he employed a young junior called Amal, who started
Clooney. Amal.
Wow. He used to come for dinner. And let me tell you, Muireann, when he comes for dinner, he clears the table and stacks the dishwasher, which is foreplay for all females. So he's gorgeous. And I did say to him, when Amal and Jeff are off in some fungal jungle liberating the world's underdogs from their kennels, if you're a little bit lonely or a little bit sad, I'll be there to comfort you. That's the kind of self-sacrificing person I am.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Knowing that George Clooney cleans the table, this is what I needed this morning. What an amazing connection, Amal Al-Muireann and George Clooney. Well, Kathy, you have thoroughly delighted us this morning.
You have been a joy. You've been an absolute joy.
The book is called... The book is called The Sisterhood Rules. It is out now. Kathy Lette, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
I can say the crack was 90, don't you think?
You can indeed.
Hey! Up Tipperary. Thanks, Kathy. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
Oh, she's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Come to Ireland with the boyfriend and come and join us on the couch, Kathy, please.